Andy Edwards, welcome to the Pacey Performance Podcast. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me on, finally. It's been a while.
Yes, it has been a while. We were chatting, I think I was stalking you 5 or 6, 7 years ago, but it's better late than never. A lot's happened since then for you personally and professionally. So just before we dive into the stuff we're going to talk about, would you mind just giving us a short bio on you?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So obviously Andy Edwards, I'm currently the head of athletic performance for the South African national team, or as the Springboks, as we're known. I'm going into my 19th season in coaching in professional sport, or strength and conditioning coaching. My sort of build up to where I am right now, I started off at Saracens Rugby Club in North London. I grew up around there. I was a local boy, so weirdly I sort of stayed in one place for so long. I'd only moved out just outside of North London in St Albans, where we based our training ground after a while. But essentially, coaching wise, I was 4 years working with the academy system. I know we might go into a little bit of that later, but essentially 13 to 21 year olds, and there was a limited staff back then, so assisting the senior guys out as and when, which was a nice thing, but I guess we'll go into that later. Then moved into the senior environment for 5 years, which was a good move, natural transition. Alongside that, I actually did a consultancy role with the RFU. I was the lead S&C for the England Saxons team, or the England A team, which hasn't actually been around since 2016. I believe they're bringing it back from what I hear. But that was a sort of a consultancy thing going on there. Saracens allowed me to do that, and then for the last 6 years, I was at Saracens as the head S&C. Again, a natural transition within the club. So I sort of spent a total of 15 years there. And then for the last 3.5 years, I've been with the Springboks as the head of athletic performance. So yeah, a sort of sole coaching career within rugby, within 2 or 3 organisations. I'm very fortunate to have been part of some really memorable things. So in Saracens, whilst I was there, we'd won 5 Premiership titles, 3 Champions Cup titles, and then since I've been in South Africa, we've managed to win the Lions Series in 2021, and then the World Cup this year. So they're very fortunate to have had a bit of success with the teams I work with as well.
Good work. So starting the academy at Saracens, was the plan always to progress into the seniors, or were you set on being working with youth athletes?
I think like when you start out, like it's head down and you're doing what you do, and you're like, I didn't know what I was doing really. You're just soaking it all up and getting on with it. The great thing about the academy system then was, or within most clubs, there wasn't as many people within the systems that there is now. I mean, when I left Saracens, I think there was 11 within the sports science and S&C department. When I first started with Saracens, when I was the academy S&C guy, there was only 3 of us, including the 2 senior S&C coaches. There was a Kiwi and an Aussie. They were my bosses. And then it was myself. There was no intern. So we were all just sort of mixing in, and you were getting that crossover of sort of senior life and where they were travelling. And I think after a while, it just becomes that natural progression. There's something to be said for the specialists that work within youth development. Because of where I started and because of the way Saracens probably ran their development system and how it was sort of the engine room of the club, through the RFU system, that was to benefit England, to produce England players, but they must be first team players for your club, and so on and so on. So I think, like I said, it just probably becomes a natural progression, unless you're going to really delve into that. But most people get to a point where there's a senior opportunity, a move that comes up, and they take it. So yeah, for me, I guess it was a natural thing. But when I first started, it wasn't always okay, I must get to senior. It was just, like I said, head down and enjoy it and hope it goes well.
So you need a couple of hands to count the trophies of what were won while you were there. What made that club so special at the time?
Oh, it was like, I'm speaking personally, but it was, there's all these sort of buzzwords that people have about Saracens over the years, family club, special place, all this sort of stuff. But it was just an unbelievable environment. We had really good, at that stage, we'd had really good stability and there was people that I'd worked with when they were younger, that were now in a senior environment. I mean, when I first started S&C, in the academy was the likes of Owen Farrell, Jamie George, George Cruz, Jackson Ray, Will Fraser, Alex Good, and Maro Itoje came into the system a couple of years after that. There was all these guys that everyone had come up together, and there was plenty of other coaches that had been in the system, and they'd also stayed, and there was more stability. Because between, I guess, 05 to 09, there was lots of change. There was lots of head coaches and director of rugby's that had been and gone. By 09, Brendan Venter had come in. The CEO was Edward Griffiths, and Mark McCall was also there, which obviously Mark's still there now as the director of rugby. And it just created this, okay, this is more than a rugby club. This is something else. People growing up with each other's families are building. Everyone's going to weddings and what have you. I'm talking off the field, but within it, it's no matter what anyone says. I sort of lived and breathed it and watched what the guys did and watched what all the staff did. It was an unbelievably hard working environment. And there was real good high standards, and I think for a period of time, and it still happens now, but it was probably pushed a little bit earlier, there was lots of enjoyment around all that. I think the classic tagline was sort of, create memories, and you probably remember all the trips coming up, and we went to some great places and had some really good times, which sometimes was questionable to performance. Jumping on a plane to Abu Dhabi or New York or something like that, and then coming back midweek and playing a game, 7 days later. Then in between that, you've got travel and drinking and then maybe a tiny bit of training and some trips and all sorts. But it somehow it just seemed to click and work. Great experience. Like I said, all of that coming into a foundation of a lot of hard work from everyone. And like I said, it just seemed to click. A lot of fond memories. Yeah.
Who was driving those standards?
That was
incredibly high.
Big spread of people. And that was the great thing about the club. You quickly got brought up to speed if you were new, both players and staff. The training field stuff and the performance side or gym stuff, the conditioning stuff, it just sort of takes care of itself. We'd kept models the same for a while with subtle tweaks. We used to say, me and my boss Phil Morrow, we used to say the same but different. Every year we'd meet at his house and we'd go through the plan for pre-season. How can we do the same but different? And that's because it was something that was working. And why have massive changes? But you can have subtle tweaks that just keep the same thing going, but put a spin on it, or maybe you take some risks out, or a way we think we can improve performance or our build up or whatever it's going to be. So we just had good, like I said, good stability, which allowed things to just build and build. And then it was the standards were driven across the board. If I think about the staff side of things, we let's speak about the S&C department because it's easy for me. You'd bring, let's say we had an internship program. You'd bring people in, and once we believed we had the right people, and they got used to the system, and they could start. We could help them maybe find out who they were as a coach and what they could maybe push. That was them driving it in their own way. That then they were getting stuck in with the academy system and doing the Tuesday nights and Thursday nights. That's driving a standard. I sometimes used to go and watch when I could. They're pushing a standard for the club. You've got director of rugby setting a standard, the coaching team, the senior players, if you want to call them that, coming in and out of international environments. When a big group do leave to go to, let's say, an England camp, another group of players must step up and drive a standard. So it was just churning itself, snowball was rolling and the club was in a very good, healthy place.
Sorry, mate, I keep muting it just in case there's stuff going on. Kid. Sorry.
Don't worry.
So the transition between questions might be a little longer.
That's fine.
So in terms of the same but different, what was, especially in your latter years when you were kind of heading things up there, what was the same? What were you so comfortable with in keeping that it only needed those kind of minor tweaks year on year?
Same but different. I think when you get more comfortable with a group and your annual plan, and the way you periodize and pull back, and when we're going to push, and okay, how hard is hard enough, and all this sort of stuff, you're just much more comfortable because you've done it for a long time within the same league. It's easy to be first off, right, when are we starting? So then, and that's a big one, because when are people going to get time off? When are they going to get the switch off? And when are we going to get you back in, to switch on? So even things like that was a subtle change, because rather than sort of saying, well, listen, we're not sure when we're going to go out, or, how long we're going to train for, when can I book my holidays? Just go with it and say, listen, we're going to start at this date. And everyone can make their plans. And if we lose in the semi-final, we win the final, we get knocked, it doesn't matter. We'll make a plan around that. But this is when we're starting, and this is when we will be back at work for some optional stuff to be going on. Because let's be honest, once you go on holiday and you've done your family thing or girlfriend or whatever, you get bored. And if you're a professional athlete, you need to start doing something. So everyone's going to be back at the right point. And if we've said it's going to be at this date to get started, then we haven't lied to anyone. And when we've built, we believe as a performance department, we've still got enough time to get the squad ready for the start of the season. And away we go. And then let's say just talk pre-season itself. The model then, like I said, because you've done it for a number of years, you know what the start's going to be like. When the Champions Cup tournaments is happening. When the international players might be coming back if they do go away. Everything starts to pour into one, and you just know, okay, these are the areas we're going to push. We can make a subtle change. For example, rather than doing all the lower body weights in the morning, and then doing a light skill session in the afternoon, we might want to do speed and power work in the morning, and then do the heavy work in the afternoon. And we're doing the same work over the day, but we might have just changed the order of play to push a certain element of training that we might feel we get better change out of for this year. So very subtle things, but in general, the model we could keep the same because of our belief in it after doing it for such a long time as a stable group.
I should have asked this a little bit ago, probably 10 minutes ago, but this probably leads into a follow-up question after this. But your philosophy, how did that philosophy over the time, obviously in the academy and developing things as a younger coach, to then into a senior role and then a lead senior role, how do your philosophy develop? What did it end up? What do you kind of describe it as now?
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? Because like you say, of course it's going to sort of adapt and change. And I think I said at the start, you don't know what you're doing when you first start. You're relying on others to help, and I hope that's the case. You've got to have a belief and I guess confidence in what you're going to do, because you're going to deliver a program to somebody or a team or a group. But let's face it, there's not too much knowledge to draw back on experience, because you don't have any. So I think the great thing about the academy role with me, like I said earlier, with not having too many staff around and being exposed to senior environments, is I actually got a broad scope to do so many things and figure out with multiple groups of people within different departments. So, you've got the academy managers, the academy coaches, the academy physios, Obviously, my boss is in the S&C department, and then the senior groups, and so on and so on, and then the RFU. So you're constantly figuring out that philosophy and things that do become important. But like I said, for me, I could write a schedule and see if it worked, write a pre-season plan, because we were separate at that time. The academy system was run differently. But then go and work with the senior team and what's going on there and how are they running it? What do we need versus them? And so I think that the younger days, you got to be clawing it all together, and you maybe trying to put something in a package for where you end up and what you start to sort of really hammer home on. But I guess these days, philosophy, and I'll go across maybe coaching and people and staff and players and sort of, mix it all up. But naturally, nuts and bolts of training, S&C, what do you believe in? But I believe there's got to be foundations to everything. You can apply the foundation thing to, your training element. We know to be powerful and quick, you must be strong. You therefore must have a foundation. You must have a foundation of understanding the tactical system for what's going to happen for rugby. That's a foundation. You must know that, because you must know what's important for your sport, which falls into the philosophy thing. There's got to be a deeper understanding of where you're going as a group, and what the coaches need to win. That's a foundation. You've got to be somewhat aligned at different levels. So alignment of your staff, alignment with your playing group. That's, if you think about it, that's layering a foundation to go forward, be it a session, a year, a particular phase. That alignment is building your foundation of where to go forward. So very much a big part of what I believe should be set up. If there's nothing to build on, you're going to struggle. That might sound obvious, but I don't think it is like that for everyone. It's just my beliefs. I think the understanding of what matters and your belief, and then in my thought of a philosophy is your feel as well, because the understanding will probably relate to some kind of a detail, some data, science, and so on, which obviously comes back to maybe the nuts and bolts of what you know. But I believe there's got to be, in rugby at least, there's got to be a feel element of what's going on. Because
sorry to interrupt, Andy.
That's all right.
No, I've done 460, 70 something of these, and most people might have described it as similar, but no one's described it like that. Having a feel. What do you mean by that? And give us a practical example where another person may demonstrate it, and you may go, I think he gets that feel there.
Well, they're like, I know everyone would have had this practical example, or they would have practical examples. The feel thing. Okay, so I'd say I'm a people person. I can take everything in. I can analyze and I'll get stuck into what's knowing important, but I can't help but go there and try and find out about you as a person. I just can't, because it's just the way I tick. I can get emotional sometimes. I can get rowdy and worked up and fiery. Just the way I'm wound up. So I can't help but go there, and then that leads on to the feel thing. So you start to feel a room is somewhere that isn't right, but you are doing something because your plan has said you should. But there is this gut burning thing inside going, I can't hang my hat on this now because I just don't feel right, or this person is coming to me and it just does not match up because my feel is telling me this. Then I would probably take the feel route, or I would try and gain an understanding of why my feel is telling me that to change the plan based off my data or whatever it is. So that's what I kind of mean there. Don't be stupid with a player's body, because these the athletes are, the body is their business. Don't be silly with someone's potential career or session or whatever because you think you should based off a plan. If your feel is telling you something, then explore what that feel is, and then you'll probably get to the right thing. So I hope that kind of explains it.
Absolutely. Do you think that's something that's developed over time? Do you think you had that like innately from when you first started? Or a fragment of it, and it's kind of manifested itself over 19 years?
Maybe that was something within me. I think obviously it can be developed because you become more comfortable when you're more experienced. So you start to, you know what else comes with feel or helps the feel is of course there's experience. I've been here before. I've heard this kind of thing before. Okay, now I'm connecting the dots and I'm way more comfortable and I've also got this thing inside me going, geez, this doesn't feel right, or it feels brilliant. You know, I think I probably kept going negative there. It could be going, this is great. I'm going to change that because I need to go here today. I need to go here this session. I need to. So I think maybe something within me that I've just latched onto. And like I said, people person, I just have to go that way for me. If I can, if people are going to let me in, I'd rather go that way to get the understanding of the person.
There's so much now, and sorry, mate, but there's so many people now who are kind of moving towards the data side of things and been more reliant on it, and maybe that's why I'm not surprised but really pleased that you've talked about this feel side of things, because it's I don't want to put it on a continuum, but the other end of a spectrum, but the other side of the spectrum to the kind of data-led, data-driven side. Do you think that's, I mean, you'll see and be in touch with plenty of people and especially in the role that you do now. Do you think that's something that's potentially been lost a little bit as we move towards this data-driven, data-led way of doing things?
Yeah, maybe. I don't like. There's never right or wrongs with these things. So maybe it has, but is that a bad thing? No, is it? Or like it depends how you look at it. It depends. You want a person, which way you want to drive your system, or lead a team. So I don't think there's necessarily, like I say, a right or wrong. It's just more what you're comfortable doing. I'm still very data driven. I want to understand it. I want to know what's going on. I want to see it. But like I said, for me, I just have to have the other side too. And I think even another thing around that could sort of fit into the philosophy thing around the feel and the data, which might be a nice way of packaging it as well. I don't think you'll ever go wrong and I think you can apply this to anything. What's been or what's happened, what's now or what's happening, and what's to come. So what's going to happen. And if you think about those three sort of things in a single session, in a day, in a week, in a month, you can't get caught out. And within those three things, you can think what's happened. Okay, he's done X amount of kilometers or X amount of high speed, and he's had this much load in the gym. But he's up from a field point of view. He's also told me that, he's sleeping rough, and he's got the young baby, and then what's now? So now, what's happening? Okay, he's got another session, but he's got to train in the afternoon as well, and I've still got that feel thing of the family thing because we know the person, but the data suggests this because you see where I'm going with it. So I think it can be nicely blended if you want to do it that way, and those three things. If you're always going that way, I don't think you'll ever be caught out. Well, I don't say ever, but it'll be hard to find yourself get caught out. And I think within the field thing, and it comes to staff and players now, is show empathy, and learn how to be direct when you need to be. And ultimately through that, I think you end up knowing what you know, and if you brought them in as a staff member, or they're an existing staff member or a player or whatever it is, then there's probably some form of respect because of what you're both doing in profession. And then off the empathy and the respect and all that sort of stuff, then you've got trust. And then where can you go wrong? It's like a sort of a funny kind of a friendship with you building it on. So, yeah, that's sort of my take on all that.
Cool. Interesting. Right, let's take a little detour and let's go to the World Cup. So you come into your current role and the Springboks were world champions. And ironically, we had Allard Walters, who was the predecessor, in that same position. And I think he'd left and gone to Leicester at that particular time when we spoke, but he'd done what you did 4 years previous. Was that a lot of pressure coming in as a S&C coach, head of athletic performance, knowing that you were coming into that kind of environment?
I think it's not pressure. It's just a fact that, okay, a bloody good team. Let's hope they can stay that way. But listen, it's a different ball game. It's international versus club and all the rest of it. But I think like I said before, I was very fortunate as Harrisons to have been through a lot with them and had a lot of success at club level and worked with a lot of international players from all over the world. So like you start to get just a bit more comfortable with all the things we sort of spoke about, the demands of the game and the data side and where you are as a person and your philosophy, and you just see, okay, rather than it being pressure, like I want to get stuck into the new role. It's exciting. It's that sort of thing you get after. I felt when I had the call, it was such a hard thing to turn down. Like me and my family it was during COVID. There was all the weirdness of COVID coming up. My Mrs. Lorena was pregnant with our little daughter, and we were going to have to move over to Cape Town. And I'm making it sound like a sob story because cry, you're moving to Cape Town. But because it was COVID, there was a lot going on. So I think it was more just sort of excitement. And at that time, okay, are we ready as a family to do it and get stuck into it? And that was more the way I was looking at it. In terms of the job, it was, okay, the first thing after COVID, and there was no international rugby for the Springboks in 2020. The first thing was the British and Irish Lions series. So really, it's just, man, this is going to be a hell of a challenge, because by the time we get to our first game of that season, they wouldn't have played a game since the World Cup final, and it would have been 20 months before that. So it was more just excitement. Okay, how are we going to get after this weird and wonderful scenario?
And where do you go as a head of athletic performance? You've got this World Cup winning team. What's your approach? Is it we carry on doing what we're doing because you've had incredible success? I suppose it goes back to the Saracens thing, like maybe you keep things the same but little tweaks. But how did you approach that at the Springboks?
When I was coming in?
Yeah, when you were coming in.
Yeah. Everyone searches for sustained success, right? It's like the dream, isn't it? How do you just keep winning and winning and winning? And I doubt there's any winning formulas out there. Otherwise, someone's a millionaire or billionaire. But the first thing was, I guess I had to understand where the squad was, understand where and what the coaches have been doing and where they want to take it. So from a squad point of view, that was right. I need to watch the Springbok games in detail. I don't just want to watch them on TV, maybe with a beer or something, So getting to know just, okay, this is how they played, and you got a general gist, and you listen. Then I'm meeting the coaches, and you're getting an understanding of how they operate. And obviously, COVID, we were doing things online, and some long meetings. I think our record was like 7.5 hours or something as a coaching group, just because there was so much to go through. By the time we got into it, we were way more comfortable with ourselves. The long calls and the chats as groups was worth it, because we started in May of 2021. And sort of there's okay, this is what we're doing. From my point of view, what do we change? What do we do? Like I said, I've now watched, I've now understood the squad, I've now spoken to all the players that are playing all over the world. That's a unique thing the Springboks have. They've got players playing in 5 different countries: South Africa, Japan, Ireland, France, and the UK. A lot of conversations, trying to get into their heads what's important, what did they do, what do they might want to keep doing, where are we going. There's going to be uniqueness because it's all going to be new to everyone, being in bubbles and all the rest of it. So I think you can't just, there's no way I just want to rip it all up, because the coaches have a plan, and they run a system. But then it's got to be sort of me coming in to support for what I think we should do. So after spending so much time together and chatting, then it kind of just naturally starts to happen. And okay, this is how long we're going to train for. It's these intensities. I understand the training week now, and so on and so on. Even though there were parts of that were quite funny going into such a big series, because we actually didn't get to run our normal test week until the very first Lions test, because every time we tried to do it within our build-up camps or the test against Georgia or whatever, we got pulled back and we were back in our hotel rooms, in isolation, and it was
because of COVID.
Because of COVID. So it was mad, that Sunday before the first test, we had people flying over from Joburg. Boys had been in their rooms for 14 days. We still hadn't done a full test week as a coaching group, even though we spoke about it so many times. So there was some. That was an interesting period. We were figuring out, we were aligned as a coaching group, and we knew what we wanted to do. But there were some things we were still figuring out as we went into such a big series, because no one's ever done that before. No one's ever done the Lions thing in a bubble. And it was our first gig together as a group of coaches. There was me plus another two new coaches. There was a couple of new players, and none of the players had been in that situation. So it was fascinating. But what did I need to change? Not a great deal. It's just more small things around the existing plan and ways that what I think we needed to get ready for tests were.
Can you give us any details of what little tweaks you did make? If you can, that's fine.
Yeah, it's more around. I think it's just more around volumes. We're looking at how I understand data and what I believe is important, and how I'm sort of relaying that to coaches. So, what I would like to do, one of the big things around conditioning is how can we rugby condition as a team. So I know that sometimes you've got to go back to accountable linear conditioning, what have you, but I would way rather take my time and volume of training and put it within rugby settings, be it that small-sided games, 15 on 15, but me control perhaps conditions of those games. I love to be in the mix refereeing games, and I like to be on the field with the coaches. So if we can do it that way, then I would rather it would be done that way. And I think as a sort of cohesion as a team together, the more time we're spending doing that, hopefully the better we are off the other side when we get to a weekend or whatever. So that was maybe one of the bigger changes. Ball in hand, tactical side, but sort of me with the conditioning elements within that. Like I said, because it was my background. I think I go all the way back to when I first started. One of the main reasons for that maybe is because the two first bosses I had were an Australian and a Kiwi. And the Australian guy worked from rugby league originally, and it was games with some bouts of running. I loved it. I ex-player, I could ref, I could sometimes get in, and that's me still now. Not that I want to jump in as much anymore. Just get embarrassed. But I'd love being on the field, whistle. Games, rugby, 15 on 15, pushing intensities, going above match demands. Putting players in uncomfortable environments that way is sort of my go-to. Yeah.
I suppose putting yourself in the mix, like you say, refereeing, being involved, that takes, this is maybe more from a football perspective. I know it's slightly different in rugby, but that takes a lot of trust from the people around you, the leadership team, the head coach, his assistants, etc., to have the conditioner so involved in those small-sided games, rather than your piece being like they do that bit and then they come over to you and do the extras to get the top up the metrics that you feel necessary. So that's clearly something you've built there in terms of that trust and to be in that situation.
Yeah. And again, if you link up all the calls and then time in camps and the great thing about Rassi and Jack as DOR and head coach, like they listen, we brought you in, we called you, we wanted you to do the job, sort of to certain elements, you tell us, so we go back to the philosophy thing, we respect each other. We had a lot of chats. We obviously I respect them for what they were doing. They must have respected me for what I was doing within Saracens. Listen, go and do your thing, get on with it, no fluff. If this is what you want to do, great, understand the systems. That's why I like spending a lot of time with the coaches. Like, how deep can I go with them to get a clear understanding? And you speak the same language, and not them speak the data language, but if they've just got a clear understanding of where I'm coming from, and then I've got to understand where they're coming from, and then you're together with the players, and you're giving good reasoning to the players, and you're putting, it's not just games with a little bit of running data. We put a lot more to it. That there's competition within. There's reasons why we have certain rules, and so on and so on. So the players have got a great understanding that they can compete for and get after. They know where they're going as a group because the coaches put it so well to them, and then I understand where the coaches are going, which is why, like I said, I'm a sort of an add-on to that coaching team from the conditioning side. So, like I said, they just go. If you want to do something, and we get more rugby time out of it as well, almost brilliant. Then if we don't always get what we need, like I said, sometimes there's always a place for the generic conditioning, if you want to call it that. Tight forward, you've got to do this. Outside backs, you've got to do this. Back rows, you've got to do this. Or just mass conditioning. We're doing this because we are going to this place and this is the phase we're at right now. And everyone's on board with the plan. A couple of surprises here and there, but normally, like I said earlier, you tell people direct, let them know what's going on. If they ask a question, and if you've got the answer for them, give it to them. Don't bullshit and lie to anyone. Oh, we might do this, we might do that. No, we're going to do this. Just be ready for it. It's your job. And then everyone's on board and just work.
Nice, perfect. And the elephant in the room here, you bloody won the World Cup, Andy. What was the final, the semi-final, the build-up, post? Give us an insight into what that's like.
Obviously very proud to have been involved with the team, with the Springboks team, and go on and win it, and hopefully have played a decent enough part in getting them ready and all the rest of it. So just, I think, amazing feeling. What more can you want? It's the World Cup. It's the bloody World Cup, and you win it. And I think the way in which no matter what anyone thinks, when you're within the environment and you see the build up, the squad and the injuries and everyone working towards it, and of course every country's doing the same, but when you get to the knockout stages and you got France at home and they're on a roll and the crowd was going mad, and you're beaten by a point, and then it's short 6-day turnaround England, and they got a specific plan, and English guy against England working for the box and all the rest of it. So one point, they find a way, and then you're on to the next thing, and then into the World Cup final. What a week to be involved in, sitting down with the coaches, the planning, and then you're setting out what you'd like to do from a performance point of view, and we're going to train for this long and that long, and the coaches are you're all just so in sync by then. It's just yep, let's go. Players the same, and then All Blacks Springboks final. Unbelievable history between those two, and it was who's going to get the first of four, and so can the Springboks go back to back? It's just, and then it happens. It's just it's unbelievable. So yeah, very, very, very proud. A lot to look back on it, and obviously a ridiculous amount of celebrations. I think we drank for 8 days straight afterwards. So
too bloody right as well. Too right. So apart from having exceptional players, what was the difference? Was there a difference? Clearly was.
What was the difference? Okay.
The physical prep beforehand.
Of course, yeah. Listen, you say apart from having exceptional players, but you can't not talk about the players.
Of course.
Like what a group, and just like they're ridiculous. They're not even human and machine like people. These fellas. So like as you say, a very very experienced, professional, hard working, tough group of people that just are just going to go for you and go for each other, go for South Africa. You know, you would have seen probably all the videos of the trophy tour and everyone going mad this side when we were on the bus for 4 days, and that, you know, inside them it's for South Africa. You know, I'm now the same. I'm for South Africa. You know, I'm living here with my family. You know, got another baby on the way. We've grown up a young family here in Cape Town. It's like you become a part of that. All kind of feeds into what we're saying. You know, what was the difference? There's this added difference I feel for playing for the Springboks and knowing what's going on back home in South Africa and what they're going to do for each other, but for the country. And what else was the differences? Like, I mean, we had a very good prep. We had a very good squad this year. We had more time through certain agreements that got sorted out. The way the coaches brought in players in and out since I'd started from 2021, but in particular 2022. And I'm going off script here, but for me, it's all part of it. What was the difference? Like, where did we get it right? You think about the Wales series, there was a lot of complaints here because we'd won the first test against Wales in 2022, made 14 changes, lose the second test, and then make some changes in the third test, and then win that one. But if you go back to the people that got exposed into that second test and caps got made, and then you fast forward to 2023, you know, this is the difference. You've got a group of coaches at the top that are leading the program, that are willing to do all this in the build up, and it kept going, you know, into 2023. Who's going to come into the squad? By that time, you've got I can't remember. We had roughly about 40 players in the June camp, but how's that going to get whittled down to 33 when you've got such a strong, established group, experienced group? And then you've got some of those guys that started the year in February and March conditioning camps when we had 3 weeks with them on our own before they went back to the franchises. So they've got so much in the build-up. The way we could rotate in the 6 games before the World Cup to make sure no one's punch drunk come the World Cup. The way we could still rotate within the pool stage. And the way the planning worked out, you know, all of this comes into it for us. It wasn't just the last 3 weeks. Obviously, everyone talks about that knockout stages, but it was a huge amount put in, like every country's doing. But I'm going to talk from within because I lived and breathed it. You know, for us, it came true, and you stick to your guns, and the coaches making bold calls to leave people out, and they end up coming back in, and it just there was some big calls made but not based off, you know, one-off things. It was over a full cycle that ended up making a difference.
One thing that was a big thing for you was, and I know you probably can't go into loads of detail, but that was one of the players coming back post ACL after 4 months, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, no, that was fascinating. Obviously, everyone knows Sia Khaleesi needed a ACL recon. He had it in the URC season before we even started our conditioning camps leading into this year's Rugby Championship. So for me, a fascinating case to be involved in, and another great guy and a truly committed guy, and the whole thing was the way it was managed right from the top. Was for me, it was brilliant. Obviously, Sia's our captain, and immediately he gets injured and has the op, and I think the whole rugby world are writing him off, saying can't be done. World Cup's over. I think was it. Can't remember if I've got this right, but it might be Sever Reese. You know, I think he did his ACL and it was written off. There was a couple of people, but from our point of view, obviously it starts with the surgeon, and then you get the sign off to start doing some work. And Rassie Erasmus was brilliant with the squad, and I was in Sia and said, listen, this guy is our captain. Sia is our captain until he can't do it. He's going to lead us, and that for me was brilliant because you have the guy at the top backing the captain and backing everyone that's going to work and backing him that he's going to be able to do it. And there's okay, let's go. If there's a chance that we're going to take it because he is our leader. One is the 2019 World Cup, one is the Lions Series. He's our man for 2023. So that was brilliant. And then you've got all the rehab side of itself, which details I won't necessarily go into, but the things that Sia did and his drive and commitment over the whole process and going in and out of environments, because you'll remember we're in a training camp getting ready for Rugby Championship. You've got a guy doing a full-time ACL rehab. It can't just be about Sia. It's about the Springboks winning and preparing and so on. So we were up at 3-4 a.m. He didn't mind. The day always starts early for the other guys. He's got to be back. He's got to be in meetings. He put it in, and a hell of a shift from him. He was in and out with the Sharks. He didn't see his family much. He came over with the early group to New Zealand with us to do extra rehab. He was just going strength to strength to strength, and he was believing. We were all believing, but it wasn't perfect. There was a lot we were figuring out on the way, but. The best thing, and he won't mind me saying this, the best thing from him, that probably the most unique thing I'd seen, was his drive and attitude to push no matter what he was doing that was new within the rehab stage or return to play stage. And his belief was, listen, I need to and I want to play the Wales warm-up game. Because the week after the New Zealand game and then after that it's World Cup. I don't want to play my first game against New Zealand, and it's no disrespect to Wales. We just had a gap week before, so there could be some prep before the Wales test, and then it rolled on. So that was the one, and that was 16 weeks and 1 day post-op. And to be fair to the man, he went and did it and played 40 minutes, and then started against the All Blacks 6 day. That was the other thing. The All Blacks game was a 6 day turnaround after that. And then we had our camp in Corsica before the World Cup, and then there he was leading the team 6 months after op to winning the World Cup. So remarkable character and individual. What an amazing story, really.
And no side effects?
Oh, listen, he had his ups and downs like any person would going through an ACL recon, return to play, but. Nothing that was severe, and he's back at his new club in Paris and played against was it La Rochelle the other day. So yeah, no, he's fine, and nice smile on his face in Paris. Why wouldn't you after winning the World Cup? Yeah,
absolutely. Well, mate, after 6 years of stalking you, it's been a pleasure to get you on and get a real insight into winning the World Cup, your experiences, and kind of everything that's happened in between over the last 19 years. But if anyone wants to get in touch with you, keep in touch. I know you're not a huge social media man, but anyone that wants to keep in touch with you, where's the best place?
I am on it. So my Twitter's Andy_Edwards. It's the easy one, or I guess professionally that everyone's got LinkedIn, haven't they? So you'll find me on there. If someone wants to reach out, I'm an open book. A lot of people have been open with me over the years, and I believe that's the right way to be. So yeah, if anyone wants to say hello or reach out or ask a question, that's fine.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Have a great Christmas. Keep in touch, and look forward to speaking soon.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for getting me on. Yeah, sorry it's taken so long, but
Don't be
appreciate
silly.
it. Yeah,
You're all good. Thanks, mate. Speak soon.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Bye, buddy.